Yeah. You have a sword, don't you?
I do have a sword.
You do have a sword.
Yeah, I have a sword.
I have a sword too. What's your sword?
Well, it's not a real sword, obviously.
Right, obviously. Mine
it's
isn't
a
either.
Prop. Basically.
Mine's from like Pakistan, I think.
A few years ago for a sales competition.
It's a real blade, though. You can use it as a real blade.
Maybe once. Maybe once.
I am a swords master. I know the art of the blade.
That was so autistic.
If I had an option between a firearm or a sword, I would take a sword.
Gone every time.
Because
No, dude, a few years ago for a sales competition, we won an incentive as an office, or I guess manager. I'm actually going to be in his bridal party for his wedding
crazy.
here in June. But I guess manager at the time put together for us to go to Medieval Times in Buena Park down in LA. So we went and we got a 5-course meal served to us.
Nice.
With beer.
Heck yeah.
And
Watch
watch
people
grown men
pretend to be knights.
fight each other in armor. Yeah. And also for that week, for people that hit their metrics or whatever, he bought something for us. And he told us, I'll buy you something from the store as a incentive. Uh-huh. So I'm thinking t-shirt, right?
Uh-huh.
And we go there, there's this whole setup, dude, with the guy who's a blacksmith, right?
Oh my
fake blacksmith in full gear in a little kiosk looking hut on the side by one of the restaurants. And we all go over there and dude, this full grown men standing over there, our whole team, 15 people, oh dude, look at that sword. Can I hold that one? Can I see this one? And then my boss at one point, he was just you guys just pick a sword.
This is some wonderful craftsmanship, blacksmith.
Dude, so I picked a sword. It was pretty expensive too. It was $150.
Dang.
Yeah.
Using a company card on this?
Reimbursed in some way or tax write-off. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I have a sword at home.
You used to have it hanging up on the wall next to your shotgun.
Yeah.
Your two close quarters home defense weapons.
Yeah, dude, if you're in my bedroom, it's a bad day for you. Bad guy in the bedroom.
Yeah, I used to have a Scottish claymore made in Pakistan. It was a replica of William Wallace's sword from Braveheart.
Dude.
It was that exact thing.
That's sick.
And I got it when I was 10 years old, and I just watched the movie because it's a great movie to watch when you're 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I tried doing the whole freedom thing where he throws the sword and sticks it in the ground. I couldn't get to work, and I did it so many times until the handle started to fall off, and then I stopped because I felt bad.
Yeah.
It was no, my sword.
Yeah, swords are cool.
Yeah, boys love weapons.
Do,
we can pretend anything's a weapon, though, can't we?
Yeah.
Like a stick. You find a stick on the ground, that's a gun instantly. Or a sword. Usually a gun, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We're really good at using our imagination to come up with weapons.
We are.
I think that's a human thing.
Probably.
Really good at coming up with ways to fight, kill each other, blow things up, destroy things.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get so imaginative that those ideas are a little crazy, a little wacky, a little out of this world.
Yeah.
Which that actually makes me think of today's topic, Alex.
Okay. And what's today's topic?
World's craziest weapons of all time throughout history. It's a bit of a mouthful. I'll have to workshop that a little bit before I title this episode.
Can we do an acronym? World's craziest weapons of all time.
Wakout. Wakout.
Today's episode.
Episode 39 of World Canon Podcast.
Wakout.
Yes.
Wakout is to weapons.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for man.
This is what we're going to try to do. What your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I have a dream.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Okay, when you hear the word crazy weapon, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Crazy weapon? I mean, it depends if we're talking about something that is fictional or non-fictional. When I think in terms of reality crazy weapon, I think of a naval railgun or a crazy fighter jet or super, super heavy artillery meant down to take massive vehicles out, something like that. But then I think fictional, I think something alien related, maybe I don't know, I think a nuke could go in there as a good...
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
One. Yeah, it's kind of my...
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. You know the saying that sometimes fact is weirder than fiction.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
I don't think that's actually how that saying goes, but
Okay. Yes.
fact is weirder than fiction.
It can be, yeah.
Well, I wanted to find and learn about some of the craziest weapons to ever exist that are just very imaginative, out of this world, weird, things you'd only see in like a fantasy video game or like Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
Like those sort of like over the top, kind of impractical, only works in like a perfect scenario sort of weapons. And I have a little list here that I thought we could go through. And I want to see what you think, because some of them are very, very wacky, very crazy, very weird. And first on my list, speaking of Wolfenstein, is a World War II era weapon created by the British. It's called the Panjan drum.
Okay.
The Panjan drum. I think I'm saying that right. I want to say it. Or maybe it's Pahan drum, but I'm pretty sure it's Panjan. This straight up looks like something from Wolfenstein. It's basically two giant wheels, right? Okay, imagine this, and you look up a picture, but it's two giant wheels, and then in between, here's a picture of it actually if you want to see. Two giant wheels, and in between is like a drum, and that drum is supposed to be full of explosives, I think, and then inside the wheels, like along the spokes of the wheels, are all of these rockets. And the idea is this thing would be loaded on, like, Alex is looking at a picture of it right now, and I think he's like...
Panjan drum.
Yeah.
Panjan drum.
Panjan drum.
Panjan drum.
Mine is having a hard time wrapping your way around this. Mine did too, because it's insane.
Yeah.
But the idea was it'd be loaded on the front of like an aquatic landing craft, like one of those little boats, like beach assault boats, basically. Yeah. And it would be put in front of all the troops in the boat. And the idea was, as soon as that that ramp drops down, you know, like if you ever watched like Saving Private Ryan, that ramp on the front of the boat, as soon as that drops down, that thing starts, those rockets fire, and that thing starts spinning, and it goes all the way up the beach, and it explodes the defenses on the beach, like the seawall, like the idea was it was going to be used on the Atlantic seawall, the Nazis' Atlantic,
tactic,
yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. And this was like as the Allies were getting ready for Normandy and all that. Yeah. This was getting ready for D-Day. The idea was it would be fired at like Nazi concrete bunkers and stuff, and then blow them up and blow a hole in the defenses as they could charge through. It didn't work. I think they tried a few test runs, and it turns out it kind of just like does not go straight, and it ends up just kind of falling on its side and doesn't even blow up.
It's so sad. It looks so cool.
It does. It really does. But I just...
So it's basically like an unmanned suicide bomber.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which
send it a wall.
If you asked the Japanese to make that, they would figure out a way to put a man in it.
Yeah.
They would figure out how to make it manned. You ever see those unmanned torpedoes? Yeah, or no, not the unmanned, the manned torpedoes.
Oh.
Dude, use a regular torpedo.
But you need a guy in there. Someone's gonna die.
Oh no. There is no honor in having no person in the torpedo. We must put a Bobby in the torpedo.
Like, if someone's gonna die, if someone's gonna blow up, someone's gonna die.
The Japanese just love finding ways to kill themselves in war. I'm convinced. They had those suicide fighters.
Yeah.
Like literally built. They had like 2 bullets in them, and then when you're out, you're supposed to dive bomb.
Yeah.
Dozens of those. Torpedoes. Why not use a regular torpedo?
Honorable.
No, this one is better. Bobby, you must go in the torpedo and blow up the Americans. The Gaijins.
The thing is weird looking, though.
If we are not killing ourselves, then are we really fighting a war?
Dude, no, that thing is crazy. And it just didn't work.
It just straight up didn't work.
It's a failed project. It's so cool.
Next on our list. This is probably going to be a much shorter episode, but that's fine. Be quick, fast to the punch. War pigs. Ancient war pigs. When you hear war pig, what do you think?
I don't know if I want to describe it.
Just Just what's the first thing that
So I
comes
know
to
it's
mind?
probably not this, or it's going to be comical and it's going to be this, but I imagine an actual pig,
Uh-huh.
okay, with like a ballistic vest on,
Okay.
and a turret, a minigun strapped on the top of him to the vest, and a bunch of like resupply stuff like ammo, grenades, med kit, and this pig with like terrifying looking eyes and really sharp teeth, but he's pink still, pink pig.
Yeah.
Okay,
Little curly tail.
running around with a minigun strapped to his top of him.
Okay, you're not that far off.
Oh, okay.
No.
Alright.
Okay, so in ancient Greece, there's this form of armor called elephants.
Time out. Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
Yes. What are you thinking of?
You know the evil dude who's like who created Rocket, and he's using
Yeah.
like different animals to like create
Uh-huh.
a being.
Yes.
You know his like bodyguard that's a pig.
Oh yeah.
That's
what you think.
what I think. Yeah.
Oh, this one's way cooler. Okay, so they didn't have tanks back then, obviously, but they did have
Right.
elephants, and
yeah.
they were very effective because this big animal. It's literally like Lord of the Rings. They would build towers, like little archery towers, on the backs of these elephants. So all these guys with like bows and arrows and spears could ride on top of this big elephant, and they would wreck house, dude.
Yeah.
Take out infantry, take out enemy cavalry. Like, it was so hard to fight against these things. But come to find out, elephants really don't like the sound of a pig squeal. It sets them on edge. It freaks them out. They start freaking out. They run into the other elephants. They all stampede and they go crazy. And they toss the guys on their backs off and like all this sort of stuff. So another thing about pigs is they're very fat. And the fat, it happens to be extremely flammable. So if Greek armies found themselves, the enemy at the time was Persians, and Persians had a lot of elephants, if they found themselves to be coming up against elephants while fighting the Persians, they would take pigs and they would cover them in tar and other kindling and stuff, point them in the direction of the elephants, and light them on fire. And then all of these burning, flaming pigs would run in the middle of all these elephants and start squealing and freaking out and rolling around.
Sure
And
the
these
Japanese didn't do that.
this sounds like a very Asian tactic. Or boil people alive and burn pigs.
It's just literally like a walking stick of butter on fire.
Oh, and then I kill myself. Yeah, and then yeah, no. So they would suicide pigs into elephants, and these
Suicide
pigs would
pigs.
stampede, go crazy, and completely ruin. Like, they rendered the use of elephants obsolete, basically.
Yeah.
By setting pigs on fire.
That's so, dude. And who discovered that is my question. Who was like the guy?
It had to be accidental.
Yeah, who was like the farmer who was like getting his village raided by these elephants, and then his pig's like, "Rah," and the elephants just went crazy. He's like, I think I have an idea.
I'm going to save all of Greece. I've saved the world.
We'll save mankind with these pigs.
But that reminded me of another crazy weapon. We're going back to World War II, and maybe you've heard of this one. But it's the Russian anti-tank dogs. Dogs. You heard me right, dogs.
Plain.
Okay. So the Russians during World War II, they don't get a lot of credit. They kind of helped win the war.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
They were kind of the only ones fighting the Axis at one point before the U.S. finally got involved, because this is like right around the time that England and France were on their heels. France was completely occupied. England was getting bombed every day. And what little French troops weren't now on the Nazi side or in prison camps were in England. So the only people really standing up to the Axis were the Russians, right? And their economy's in the rambles. It's like, at one point, I think during like the Battle of Stalingrad, the average rifle squad only had one rifle and like 10 rounds of ammunition. So it was like one rifle for 10 guys.
Poverty war.
And if the guy carrying the rifle dies, the next guy picks it up and you keep going. So they got desperate, if you can imagine,
Yeah.
and they started getting very creative. One thing that they did for dealing with Germans' armor, because German tanks were very good, very, very tough. They couldn't really take them out with a lot of the methods they had. The only, like, the most vulnerable areas were the bottom of the tanks. So what they did is they got a bunch of dogs, and they would train these dogs to find food underneath German tanks. So they had a few of these captured German tanks, and they would like teach these dogs like, hey, there's food and treats underneath these German tanks. If you see a German tank, go run up under there and there'll be a snack for you. So they just do this a whole bunch until when one of these dogs see a German tank, they're like, oh, snack. Heck yeah, treat. Go run under there. So they would do that, and they would take these dogs to the front line, and they would strap remote detonated or timed explosives to these dogs. They would just like put a vest covered in dynamite on this dog, and then they wait until a tank comes along and they say, all right, go boy, go get it, and then boom, take out this tank, because this dog is like, oh hey, there's a treat under this tank. And wait until it gets under there, and then set the charge or detonate the charge.
I thought that was just in Call of Duty. I don't know if you played the CODs, the older CODs.
Is that a kill streak?
Yes.
No way it is.
Yeah.
If you're,
it's. I remember, at least if I remember correctly, there was one COD where you could get canines, and then a higher streak was canines with C4 strapped to their chest.
no, it's a real thing.
So they like dive at you, and then even if you were able to defend yourself against the dog,
Still blows you
the dog
up.
would then blow up.
Heck yeah.
And then when you play like the round-based one that's like zombies,
Uh-huh.
but it's like with actual like people, like
Yeah.
juggernauts and stuff like that, helicopters, there would be suicide dogs. And
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to shoot them before they get to you.
And then once they die,
blow
you
them
have to
up.
run away or they blow up. Dude, that's crazy.
No, that was a real thing.
That's demented.
Yeah. I mean, they were really desperate.
That's fair. We're fighting
At least they weren't using people. The Japanese would have saved the dogs and used the people.
save dogs for food.
Yeah. No, that's just what we eat.
dude, that's so bad, but kind of funny. Like, again, who came up with this, man? Who was sitting around? I mean, they weren't sitting around. There was a superpower trying to take over the world, and like everyone speak German, but still, that's crazy.
German or Austrian, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And then that was, I remember the first time I learned about that, and I feel like I should have felt like that was sad, but I just thought that was really cool and imaginative. like, hey, at least they're not using their own guys' lives for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the only weird thing the Russians have done. They also, quite a little while later, they built this, or actually, no, I think this was before. You definitely haven't heard of this, but have you ever heard of the Novgorod? Novgorod, okay. So, this was meant to be a coastal defense platform, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, you ever play Halo 2? I'm forcing a Halo reference into this episode because I have to.
Halo 2.
Halo 2. The opening mission on the campaign where you're on that like orbital defense platform.
Yes.
It's that, but in the water,
Okay.
right? So the Russians are like, hey, we need something to defend our coast, but we don't want to use our actual navy because we want to be able to send them out. So we just want something kind of simple that's good for like just patrolling our coastal waters. So they build basically a giant tea dish, a teacup. Not even kidding, a giant teacup. And they put 2 cannons on it.
It needs to have cannons.
And the idea is it's supposed to just be this giant steam-powered bumper boat that just patrols the waters, like the beachfront waters, and it can just sit still in one spot and kind of rotate left and right and use its cannons. They only built one because it turns out trying to build a boat in a circular shape sucks.
Wonder why.
It ended up taking like 4 hours to turn around.
Oh my gosh, dude.
It was extremely slow, which originally just being slow was fine because they were going to build a bunch of them and just have them like spread out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took 4 hours to turn around. Way too impractical.
How big were these things?
Well, here's a picture of a model of one if you want to look at that. Those cannons on there are like long john cannons. So they'd be probably the size of, I don't know, they take like a 40-foot fishing schooner, put 3 of those side by side,
Looks so weird.
and then kind of round off the corner so it's more of a circular shape. That's probably about how big I'd say it is.
Oh, it looks so weird.
Yeah, this episode would definitely be better with pictures, but yeah,
Dude, it's just oh, wow. That's trippy.
it is.
so
It
tricky.
is.
Terrible design.
Very imaginative.
Obviously.
Didn't work. It's literally like a Dr. Seuss naval ship.
Yeah.
It's like something you'd see in a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah, it's something you see in like a movie or a video game. It's like
Really cartoonish.
it's like really cool, but like when you actually try and make it, it's like this does not work.
It doesn't work. It's only imagination. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of it for the Russian stuff. Coming back to modern times, though, have you ever heard of the Daser laser?
No, it's like a railgun.
Kind of. It's more of just a... No, it's just a laser.
Hmm.
So, the Air Force... This is kind of on par with our last episode, Conspiracy Theories. Go give that a listen. The Navy likes testing out crazy weapons and stuff, but so does the Air Force. And the Air Force actually, I feel like, has some even crazier stuff in some aspects. But this is one that they came up with called the Daser laser. And it's basically just a green laser, but it's special in that it transmits light in a frequency, and it kind of like flashes in a frequency that when shined in a person's eyes makes them extremely nauseous and sick, and like just knocks them out. And this thing could be loaded on a plane, flown, used from the sky. It could be handheld like on a gun, and you could just use it to like flash in someone's face and they would start throwing up.
Oh my gosh. What, dude? You get weaponized. You can just weaponize it in so many different ways.
If you can make it, you can weaponize it.
Yeah.
Basically. Like the CIA's gay gun. You ever hear about that?
The gay gun?
The gay gun.
Just turns you gay.
Literally is the idea. So I think it kind of worked, actually.
Evidence shows it might work.
So what it basically was there were three of them. There was like a very large one that could cover a wide area, and it would like transmit frequencies that would mess with. So I guess the way it worked, it would transmit frequencies that would mess with your brain and cause it to release hormones in a way, the male's brain to release hormones in a way that produces more estrogen. So it'd make you
gay,
feminine.
Dirty.
Yeah. And they made 3 different variants of it. One was like large enough that it had to be loaded on like a naval ship or like a tank or something, and it would cover a large area.
The gay gun.
The second one could be like, it was a little smaller. It could be loaded on a helicopter or something like that. And the third one was handheld. It was literally like a pistol size.
Revive me, bro.
And
I have a gay gun.
Atenda zombies gay. And I think this was like made during the Vietnam era because they needed some way to just like, which by the way, we have to do an episode on Vietnam solely about the CIA's experiments and like just their sandbox war of like testing out different weapons in warfare.
Always the CIA.
There's some crazy stuff there, but I think this was one of those things during that time. Like they were like, well, if we can't find the Viet Cong, why don't we just turn them all gay?
Dude,
Put chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay.
It's so funny because when you said world's craziest weapons, my male brain immediately is like, boom, big explosions. Like,
we're getting there.
What creates the boom, big explosions? Not for a second was I thinking
We're just
like,
warming. We're warming up.
What's
now.
like the weirdest, impractical, you'd never think of thing that was weaponized?
We'll just wait till the end of this list because
Like the Daser laser, is that what you said it's called?
the Daser laser.
The Daser laser. The gay gun.
Yeah, no,
The
but
Daser
there's that. We're just warming up to it.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
The last thing I have on this list is
I'll say like nukes and bazookas, and then now we're talking about gay guns.
the last thing on this list is insane.
Okay.
It'll put the gay gun to shame.
Oh no.
It's
Super gay gun.
an orbital gay gun.
The trans gay gun.
Going way back in history here, the Iron Claw of Archimedes.
Okay.
You ever heard of something like this?
Nope.
Do you know what the Punic War is?
Nope.
Okay. I don't really either because I'm not super big into like ancient history, but the Punic War was a war between the Romans and the ancient Greeks. All right. So this was like, I want to say before Rome was really Rome, like the Empire of Rome. It was like earlier times of Rome. And this was like right around the time where Greece was like, they were the guys.
Yeah.
Right. So the Romans are attaching this big Greek city called Syracuse. Syracuse was a naval city. They were like built right on the water. They had walls right up to the water, and it was in Sicily. Or no, they weren't the Greeks. There was someone else because this was in Sicily. See, that's how much I know about like ancient history. But anyway, they were attacking the city, Syracuse in Sicily. And the issue was the location that it was in. It was so hard to assault both from land and sea. Like really the only effective method was to attack it from sea with boats and then sail right up to the walls and then siege ladder your way up onto the walls and get into the city that way. Well, there was this guy named Archimedes who lived in the city, and he was like an engineer, basically. He was a very smart dude, very good at building machines, and he built all sorts of siege machines and stuff. He like helped build defenses for the city. He had this thing called Archimedes laser, or the death ray, which was basically just a giant mirror that they put on the wall, and they would reflect the sun's rays at incoming ships and set their sails on fire. Which is insane. That's so cool.
Genius, yeah.
That's genius. He also built like trebuchets and catapults and all sorts of stuff like that. But one thing, and this is the thing that people aren't sure if it was even real or if this was just made up because it sounds so fantastical, was the iron claw of Archimedes. Basically, this one Roman historian who was with this Roman naval task force sent to attack the city, describes this battle. When they got there, all these Roman ships got up to the wall, and he was watching. And at first, things started to go okay. They made it to the wall. They hadn't been sunk by all the trebuchets and stuff. They'd actually made it to the wall, so they start trying to scale the wall and stuff. When all of a sudden, this giant iron hand, this iron claw, these like iron claw contraptions, tons of them, dozens of them, come out from over the wall on these like large crane-like structures, and they start dipping down and grabbing the ships and hauling them up and then swinging them around, throwing all the sailors off of them, and then dropping them back into the water where they capsized or dashed against the rocks, just completely decimating this naval force. Basically just all these giant claw machines.
Did it work?
And it worked. They didn't get the city. They got sent back. I mean, they did end up winning. I mean, Sicily's now part of Italy, and Rome had it. But yeah, no, that's like one of these, like, because this is even before the medieval times. This is BC.
Yeah.
BC. I didn't want to say that one more time. BC. Okay. Ancient times. They had a giant claw machine that could pick up ships.
Which is pretty cool.
Which is insane.
It's kind of like one of those like little machines that you see on the outside of like a Winco.
Yeah, and they never work. They suck.
And it never picks anything
up.
You
can't ever get
worked,
anything.
And it was weaponized.
If you can make it, you can weaponize it. But speaking of ships, and this is, I don't know, I just wanted to briefly mention this because I think this is absolutely sick, is the Hellenistic Greeks. So this is way back in time. This is like hundreds of years BC. They obviously Greece is made of a bunch of little islands and coastal towns, so the Greeks were very good with ships. They got so good with ships, in fact, that they literally built ancient versions of full-on modern-day battleships. So you know how like the smallest battleships we have nowadays are like 400 feet long.
Yeah.
Super long, super massive, super wide, tall, lots of decks below, fit thousands of people on them. These Hellenistic Greeks, obviously they didn't have steel, but they built these massive 400-foot long wooden warships.
That would take so long to make.
that could hold crews of like up to 3,000 to 4,000 people. They were powered with rowers. So there were hundreds and hundreds of these guys sitting below deck with like stacks and stacks of rows, like long oars.
You think your job's bad now?
Imagine the blisters, dude.
Oh my god.
And these were like literally floating fortresses. So just like imagine like this big wooden ship, about 400 feet long, let's say like 20, 30 feet wide. There's about 3 stacks of oars on either side, hundreds of oars on either side with all these guys who'd row it. And this is how they would move it. And then on the top deck are walls and palisades stacking up on top of each other with archery towers along from one end to the other.
Dude, this is kind of bad.
And guys with bows and arrows, trebuchets, catapults, ballast, like all of that stuff. Big claw machines. No, I'm kidding. And just literally just out in the middle of the ocean. And any other tiny little ships that try to come up, they can literally just ram them, run into them.
I'm just envisioning like a
giant
wooden
wooden
aircraft
flowing
carrier,
fortress.
but instead of
Not even
aircrafts,
joking.
It's literally like just defenses on top. That's crazy.
Literally that. Giant wooden floating
Is there any
fortress.
paintings or pictures of this?
Yeah, I got a picture right here. You want to see it? Look at that thing.
my gosh. Dude. Not too dissimilar from how I pictured it in my head.
No, it's insane. I like how they painted eyes on the front too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave it a face. It's cars, but it's ships. That's cool, dude. Yeah, it's like the little archer towers. Little like pieces on a castle that you'd see. With like the big walls. That's sick.
Giant floating fortress.
That's so sick. Imagine you're just like little fishermen out in Greek waters and you see that thing.
Oh my gosh! No! Okay. Now, that was basically all just warm up to this because this is really what I wanted to talk about, but it's not enough to make a whole episode about. And you know how when you said crazy weapons, you thought nuke.
Yes.
What about like the nuke of all nukes, the nuke to end all nukes, the father of nukes,
Mother of all bombs.
This is the grandmother of all bombs.
This is a granny.
Have you ever heard of the flying crowbar? Crazy name, dude.
Name for this.
I know. That's what I thought. Okay. Have you ever heard of the word, or have you ever heard of Project Pluto?
No.
Awesome. I get to share something really special with you. So this was a U.S., of course, experimental nuclear-powered ramjet supersonic low-altitude missile, a.k.a. a SLAM missile.
United States playing with bombs? No. Can't be.
Only 2 of these were ever built. Hence the name. They were designed to fly at a low altitude, right? So super fast, supersonic speeds, low altitude, literally as low as treetop level. So the idea was these missiles would be fast, obviously, because you want missiles to be fast, but they didn't want it to be able to be detected by radar, so it had to fly low, quite literally at treetop level, which made it harder to detect and harder to shoot down. So, like, if it were up really high, radar could detect it. They could shoot it down with a surface-to-air missile. And it also give fighter jets more time to intercept it, too. But if it's flying right along the ground, none of that. That's not possible.
Yeah.
It was also the size of a train. It was literally the size of a train engine. And the way it worked is it wasn't a bomb in itself. It didn't fly to a target and then hit the target. It carried a payload of 24 other hydrogen bombs on board. And what it would do is it would fly over a target area, drop a bomb, fly to the next target area, drop a bomb, fly to the next target area, drop a bomb. Or it would just fly over and carpet bomb.
From that low?
Yeah, or I think it would fly really low, and then when it got near its target area, it kind of like fly up, drop the bomb, and then dip back down low.
Interesting. When was this developed?
This is like Cold War era.
Dude.
So we were trying anything and everything to get a foot over the
arms
Soviets.
race, yeah.
Dude,
what?
And on top of that, I don't know if you heard this part, it was nuclear powered. So theoretically speaking, this thing could just fly forever.
Yeah.
So also, because it's nuclear
You
powered,
can't really shoot it down.
no, because it's nuclear powered, as it's spraying out exhaust, if you can just do a little bit of basic math here, it's spraying out nuclear waste as its exhaust because it's nuclear powered. It's a nuclear engine. So it's just shooting out ionized exhaust.
Dude, and you literally can't shoot it down, can you? Because it would just blow up.
So
Everything would detonate if you shot it down.
also, on top of that, the thing was so loud that anyone it flew over would basically just be instantly deafened.
Yeah, dude. Going
So
that
this
fast.
was in every possible conceivable way a weapon. And one of the main guys who helped design it was like, yeah, the idea is basically we just fly it over a target area, bomb the crap out of them with our 24 hydrogen bombs, and then keep flying it back and forth, deafening everyone and poisoning them with radiation until this thing either gets shot down or everyone's dead, and it's just flying around the world until whatever, the end of the world.
Dude, that is...
Because it's nuclear powered, so it can just keep flying and flying and flying until it just rusts, until it just rusts away, and then there's nothing to fly anymore.
It's unfathomable and it's unbeatable. There's no real like winning way to like not be affected by it if it's like launched.
So the issue with that though was they could only launch it from U.S. territory, right? In order to fire it at any sort of enemies, i.e. Russia, China, communists, they would have to fly it over our own country and over allies. Mm-hmm. So on the way to its target, you would deafen and cause mass radiation fallout on both yourself and all of your allies before it even reached its first target. So they were like, yeah, this is a good end-of-the-world weapon.
Doomsday weapon for sure.
Good doomsday weapon,
Yeah.
but extremely impractical in every other way possible.
Yeah. But so lethal, dude. Oh my gosh. They thought of everything with it.
They really did.
It is a super weapon. It is the ultimate, like, granddaddy of them all.
No, like you said, the doomsday weapon.
Literally.
That's all it's for. It's
Yeah.
just like, we're all going to die anyways. Let's just try to kill
shoot it
more of
out.
them than
Yeah.
they kill us.
So this was developed in the Cold War era. What happened with it? Did they still have it, like, reserved now? Was it, like,
I bet you they do.
decommissioned?
I bet you they do. I bet you there's probably one. They're like, yeah, we're going to launch this if everything
Yeah.
goes down the drain.
Yeah.
We're all going to hide in our bunkers and we're just going to launch
Dude, the
this
bombs now are probably so much bigger that they have in it.
thing. Or they're smaller and they pack more of a
Or
punch.
smaller, yep.
You can fit a bunch of them.
Yeah.
You can fit like 36 hydrogen bombs on one of these. No. A couple funny little notes, because you mentioned like they thought of everything, because they literally did.
Yeah.
So, first of all, the engine burns so hot, 2,500 degrees to be specific, that 2 special measures were taken. And I thought this was really funny. I thought you would find this funny. Since most alloys burn at that temperature, fuel rods made of ceramic were used. Because if they try to use steel or anything, it would just melt.
Yeah.
The fuel rods in question that they used were made by one of the only, or the most trustworthy, biggest ceramic company at the time, Coors, who then took this design of ceramic fuel rods and ceramic lining steel like engine interiors to make their ceramic, what are they called? Vats, ceramic lined vats. And they now make Coors Light. So Coors Light, the beer company, at one point in time, helped make the world's ultimate doomsday weapon.
Never would have thought it.
That makes you think why they put a freight train on their ads, the ice cold freight train.
Is that what that is?
I don't know. I don't know. They should put a flying crowbar on there.
Yeah, why was it called the Flying Crowbar?
I think because it was meant to be like a crowbar to crack open the Soviet Union or something like that. I don't know. You crack open the door to the fortress. I don't really know. It's Iron Curtain or whatever.
It's like a weapon where like it's almost like it is too good to be true. There's too many drawbacks to using it. It can't really be used in like any modern day scenario.
This is alien invasion. We're all gonna die. use the flying crowbar.
This is like the Decepticons have made it to Earth type of thing.
Another funny thing. This isn't quite as cool, but because it got so hot, they had to find someone to protect all the electrical equipment on board. So they had to use a special exhaust manifold type of paint. And one of the scientists helping develop this at the time just happened to be reading a hot rod magazine. And in the magazine was an advertisement for manifold exhaust paint. And just so happened that paint had reached the specs that they needed. It protected against the temperatures that they would be reaching. So the exhaust manifolds paint that they used on this doomsday weapon was purchased from a hot rod magazine.
I wonder who made it. I wonder if it was like a big company.
It's probably like some hot rod company that's still around today.
Dude. It all came together so weird.
It was the most American way they could build this doomsday weapon. Beer company and hot rods.
That's so good though, dude. Oh my gosh.
It's a very American weapon.
And I would assume that they probably only did this once.
That we know of.
Could be a UFO. That's crazy, dude. Was it? You said it was like the size of a train, right?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Like a train engine.
Okay. So pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you'd see it in the sky.
And loud and explosive and just farting out nuclear waste.
Dude, like, just imagine it like flying on the tree line right here.
We'd be deaf. The windows would be broken.
Yeah. And dude, it's probably moving so fast. Did it specify the speed it was moving at? You said supersonic, so
Yeah. Whatever that means. Supersonic.
above like 1,100 feet per second.
Yeah.
Approximately. Yeah, the supersonic crack is devastating, bro. Yeah, that's what makes a lot of guns really loud. Is their speed. Shoot something subsonic, it's not as loud. But then you shoot something supersonic, it's moving that fast. Same thing with this, like flying by you, just deaf immediately. Especially something that big, bro. Think about the size of a bullet. And then think about the size of a
How
train.
loud that is.
Yeah. Something moving that fast, but it's the size of a train and it's shooting out nuclear waste.
How many times bigger is a train than a bullet? Say like a...
Hard to quantify.
Say a big bullet too, like a 7.62.
Way. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of times bigger. I mean, you're talking the actual bullet itself is...
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like,
Yeah.
just look at like
It's so
the
tiny.
last knuckle of your finger. That's about how big the bullet is.
And then shrink it down with a little bit.
Yeah. Dude, that'd make everyone deaf within a very large radius, too. That wouldn't just be like, you have to be next to it. You could be miles away, and that's going to affect
Well, I'm glad they don't exist anymore, and there's definitely no way we would ever use one.
that we know of.
But yeah, this was definitely a much shorter episode, but that's all right. Like 40 minutes.
Oh, not bad.
No,
Not bad.
that was a fun conversation.
Yeah.
You know, the last one was definitely a little bit long. We had a lot to talk about.
WCWOT.
But yeah, thanks for joining us on another episode. Please follow our socials that we have listed underneath. Remember, there's an email. We are taking false advertisements or real advertisements. We will read them on the show.
We don't discriminate.
We don't discriminate. No. The funnier, the better. If you have any ideas, you can email those in. Follow Alex's stuff. Listen to his music. Anything I'm forgetting?
Don't think so?
I don't think so. This has been episode 30 of the World Canon Podcast. Craziest weapons throughout history. Maybe we'll do something like this again another time if people enjoy it. But we're definitely doing a conspiracy theory
100%
one
we need
again
number 2.
sometime.
We need number 2. If we kept talking, we would have gone for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
Easily.
for sure. And I think next week's episode will be a big one. This one I've been looking forward to for a long time. I don't want to give away too much or hype it up too much in case it ends up sucking. But I want to, yeah. But next time we'll be talking about the Franklin expedition, great one. Very one of the greatest histories that turned into one of the most daunting tales of survival.
Does it involve cannibalism?
Of course it does.
No, is it really?
But yeah.
Oh gosh, not again. It always finds its way.
It really does. It really, really does. But it's a really insane story, and it's one I'm excited to tell you, especially because I don't think you know too much about it.
I don't
No.
know.
Yeah, hopefully more people will join us for that one, because that one will be a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. Peace.
Guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
There is no constitutional issue here. The command of the Constitution is plain.
And the people